Hi Katie, welcome to Damnation Versus. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
You've finally met your biggest fan.
I see that one. Like, it's crazy. Like, you said, like you bought our album on vinyl, and it was the first one since Vanilla Ice when you were 8 or something.
And here it is. So it was. So, because I'm almost 40, I'm 39. So when Vanilla Ice was kicking around and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soundtrack was kicking around, that was the last time I remember buying vinyl, and I must have been about 8. And then obviously technology took over, and like everyone else, I went into CDs and so on. But from starting this podcast, folk have been sending me vinyl, and I thought, well, you know what? Let's go in. So the only album I've actually bought to this point is yours.
I find that absurd, but
it's worth it.
I appreciate it.
It's been fantastic. It's been fantastic. So, talking about how bizarre my love for Pupil Slicer has become. Did you see? You remember the Damnation forum page, aren't you?
Yeah, I joined it.
So today people have been saying, they've been slagging me off basically and saying we'll get a drinking game, and every time Gav mentions Pupil Slicer, we'll make a double vodka.
I wonder if it'll be mentioned on this pod.
Well, people are going to be fairly fucking pissed after I finish this. This is it. After this one, I'm going to make I'm getting through a full episode without mentioning it. Did you see the Pig Destroyer episode?
Yeah, I watched that one. That was really cool. Blake's really nice. He seems to like us. I think that's crazy because they're like a massive influence. I mean, I think it's crazy that you're having us on, me on, like after every other guest is like, yeah, Pig Destroyer, the guy who runs like 2000 Trees and ArcTanGent, Vicky from Bloodstock, and then a tiny local London band.
Well, listen, if anyone's had a great lockdown, it's you guys. I think, talking about, I don't know any other band that went into a lockdown and came out, or will come out the other side, quite like Pupil Slicer. So let's start with, because what I find so fascinating about the whole Pupil Slicer story is exactly this snowball effect that you guys, the threes have seen, that's just been unbelievable. From, it's one thing, Gav, the guy who organises Damnation, kind of been turned on to a band, but then I'm suggesting that to Vicky, and Vicky's going, oh, I tried to book them, and then I'm talking to James, and James like, I'm trying to book them, and that's just the folk that I know. I'm certain that's happening to you guys all the time. So before we get to how ridiculous it's been for Pupil Slicer this last 18 months, I want to talk about where you were in 2019, and we'll start with that gig that I just watched in Stevenage, a place called
that's like the worst. It's like one of the worst gigs we've played, and it's the only one online, which is not great. But like my guitar strap breaks 2 songs in, like, and that like kills all the energy. And then like Josh and Luke are just like jamming for a bit, and then like there were loads of other technical issues throughout it, and I was just like not having fun that whole set. It was that like cowboy hat someone put on my hat before it started. It cursed everything. But yeah, that's like the worst gig, or one of like the top 3. The other one was like, there was one where we played at like 2 p.m. in the one of those things where like they show you a corner of a room and say there's the stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, just that. It was literally like that. It's like a tiny square on the floor. The pub's filled with like regulars. No one's actually there for the gig yet. Bright daylight, and like there's this drunk guy right near the front who's like just sitting, and then comes over and tries to like tie my guitar cable around my leg while we're playing, and he's just like completely out of it. And we just left straight after playing because we're not. Oh, and the sound guy said we couldn't turn up our amps, so we couldn't hear them over the drums at all, and it was just that's another awful one. The one that's on YouTube isn't great, but we've got some ones we've recorded. We actually recorded some like live sessions recently, so they're going to go up in June and July, and those will hopefully set the record straight of like we can be good live. Don't worry. That's just,
it was even so much the set, and you're totally right. There seems to be so many technical difficulties in that set, and you're in a stool and in your office stool, but it's like folk are just walking past, like literally hitting the mic to go and get a drink at the bar.
Yeah.
which is fine, I suppose. I mean, a lot of bands play those kind of shows, and they're a lot of fun. I've attended a lot of shows like that. But you're in a situation now. That's the way you go into lockdown, and then like there's an offer to play Damnation. There's an offer to play Bloodstock. There's an offer to play ArcTanGent. So, what are you guys thinking when this is happening?
Yeah, it's like the thing that. Our last gig we played was one of the coolest. It was just like a basement show in a pub with some mates' bands, and we were like, I think, third up the bill. So we were like second. That we like the support band for our mates' band, who it was like their AP release show. And even though it was like 50 people in the basement, 100 people, that was like, it was packed out when we did that, and that was like the sickest thing we've done. And like that was like the peak. Like 50 to 100 people in a basement, and we were like, oh my god, this is amazing. Everyone was loving it and stuff. And we've got stuff booked for like early next year. We're getting it, like we've got a tour booked in, and the next time we're in London is 1,000 capacity, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an incredible jump. It's such an incredible jump. But you guys, the pandemic's a pandemic. You guys can't play at the end of this year. You would have played Damnation, obviously. I offered it, and I'm sure you would have played Bloodstock. You've got personal reasons for that. That's fine and dandy. We can leave it at personal reasons. So now, for everyone who's now saying, okay, but when will we see Pupil Slicer? Is the answer the start of 2022?
Yeah, well, but basically we've always been like, we'll play like anything we get asked, and now we've got an agent. It's sort of like, we've got too many offers now, and only so many days we can take off work. So we're trying to optimize it. So like leave enough days to like take every festival offer we can. Leave enough days. I think we're planning. So we're doing we're main support for a band that we can't talk about yet in February. And that's like our drummer's favorite band of all time, so he can hang up his sticks after that. That's like already like, he's like, what is going on, how has this happened? But we've got that, and then I think we're looking at doing like a headline tour sort of summer. This is all like up in the air, like none of it's announced or like confirmed yet, so take it with a pinch of salt. But then festival season we've got, and then I think maybe another support tour towards the end of next year. So we'll be out there. But it's been like, so I like to say we've played outside the UK once because we went to Cardiff. I count that as
is that as far as you've been out with London or the sort of the south of England?
Yeah. So the biggest tour we've done is like, we did Brighton, Leeds, and Nottingham as like a weekender, and that was really cool. But that's like the biggest tour we've done. And yeah, this thing we've got in February is like a 2-week thing with like Budapest, Prague, Vienna, like dates through like London and like cities in the UK, and I'm just like, this is crazy. This is like, and we're like, well, we've got to get a sound guy now to make sure we're sounding good in all these venues. And then we're like, well, if it's this big like first time people be seeing us with the album, then we might as well get a lighting guy in to like do lighting to match all the songs and get them to learn the songs properly. So now we're looking at that, and it's like, it's all like snowballing in that regard too, because I already thought like when the album comes out we want to up our live game, but it's quite daunting looking at all that. But then people have always said we're better live than on record, so I hope that will still carry through in like just the energy of
all those people that said that would never have seen you performing the Mirrors post the album come out, because you wouldn't have had any shows since then. Have you played anything even restricted or seated or anything?
No.
At all? No.
Our last gig was March 2020, so yeah, like just over a year ago, 14 months. Yeah, that was our last gig. But yeah, but we've got these live ones coming up, which will hopefully be good. I mean, we've been playing stuff off the album for like 3 years. Like, so I you said to me earlier, like you were doing a bit of a deep dive and found an email from me in 2019 asking to play Damnation. And then at that point, our set was entirely mirrors. So you would have loved it.
Yeah.
You'd have had the exclusive early
how bizarre, how bizarre is that? It's like the guy who passed up in the Beatles, you know? It's like, it's, those, I tried to sort of picture a timeline of how is it that that was turned on to Pupil Slicer, and then from there. So that's the reason I went for that sort of deep dive, as I called it. My understanding was it was the guy, the admin for the Damnation page, Graham Smith. He posted up something in the beginning of January. It basically said they pre-ordered mirrors, and there was this great math grind band for London called Pupil Slicer. Now, that happens a lot in these pages, so I remember the post, but I'm not sure if I checked it out. And then it was maybe a month later that one of the videos went up that I checked, and I was like, well, this sounds like Dillinger Escape Plan, and Converge, and Pig Destroyer. And then there's a bit where you've got some demented vocals that sounds a bit like Julie Christmas, and I'm like, this is ticking all the boxes. So that was that. So what I want to do before I came on today was like, I want to double check the name of your agent, because I thought fuck man, that guy's one to watch. So when I'd done that, I typed in Pupil Slicer, and this other email popped up directly from you. And people said, "Hi guys, any chance we can play your festival?" I was like, "Fuck's sake!" I had no recollection at all of ever seeing that email, and that would have been, and that was the year that Opeth and Mayhem and that had played. So I mean, are you out? I mean, when you sent that email, was that one of these ones that's just to every festival that happens in the UK, or were you trying to go to Damnation, or what?
I was deliberately trying to go to Damnation. I love Damnation. I've been twice. I've got a ticket for this year because while we can't play it, hopefully we'll still be able to come, because I'm like, I haven't seen Pig Destroyer. I have to see Pig Destroyer. I love Pig Destroyer. I came to the year... who are the headliners? So the most recent one I went to was the Bloodbath Sodom that year. So and that was like one of the best gigs I've been to, because I saw Agoraphobic Nosebleed and Nails front row, both in a row, and that just like blew my mind. Like, that was the first time I'd seen both of them, and that was so good. That
stage, because it was Dragged Into Sunlight, Nails, Dying Fetus, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, and then after that, Bloodbath.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a good year. And then the other year was Mariner that year, or was that a different one?
Mariner, maybe the year before that. So
I came to that one Mariner? As well. Yeah, I saw the Mariner gig. That was so good. I love Cult of Luna as well. So I like Carbon Raw as well, but I've not seen them at Damnation.
It will happen again.
I've seen you saying how much you love Armin Ra and Cult of Luna.
Yeah, Armin Ra, aye. Slowly
That's so good live. I saw them at Roadburn the year that Jane Doe was played in full by Converge. That's mainly why I went. But yeah, it's funny you like comparing us, saying we sound like Dillinger, Converge, and Pig Destroyer and Julie Christmas, because they're like my favourite bands, and what I was trying to sound like. But,
that's exactly what I was aiming for. So that was good. So hopefully we'll see what 2022. I mean, 2022 for Damnation's pretty similar to everybody's plans. Everything's fucking up in the air. I mean, at this point, it's really just trying to hold together what we've got for 2021, and then if that explodes, well, I might be in tears. So I mean, there might not be a 2022, and if that happens, then I'll be delighted. And then we can roll on. But it's been a mad year. But 2022. I mean, I want to talk about. Josh and Luke as well. I watched a couple of the podcasts you guys do, and you usually do them as a band, and I have to say I really enjoyed the dynamic of the three. I mean, Luke seems like a character, and Josh has got some sort of comedic timing that I don't know if he does deliberately or not, but it's quite good. But I've seen podcasts with any more than just a host and a guest on a Zoom, it can just start to get all over the place, and people don't and they talk over each other. So apologies to both yourself, Luke and Josh, and hope I get to talk to you or meet you at some point. But that was the reason I was like, no, because if we do that with four folk, it's just going to be an absolute fucking mess. You find that? Oh, sorry. Did you? I mean, how are the guys to be in a band? You seem like, as I say, you've got a great dynamic.
Yeah, it goes pretty well. I mean, as much as like Luke complains that I'm the band Führer because I just say how I want things to be, and like my word is final on everything. But I mean, like I was the only original member, and I wrote the lyrics and the songs. But I mean, that's taking too much credit. Like Josh and Luke do, but our process, like I'm not going to go into like how we write all our stuff because there's a billion other podcasts for that. As you were saying, you want to be more unique than that. But yeah, it works well. Like me and Josh will go back and forth and stuff. Sometimes I'll have something completely done and then bring it to the others. And then Luke sort of like, when it's done, I'll pass it by him and see what he says. So like the start of Mirrors, after the like, when it goes really Pig Destroyer-y and like just blasts, that was a lot more simple originally. And I just listened to loads of Pig Destroyer, so I was trying to do that. But I sent it to Luke. He was like, "Can you make it weirder?" And then I was like, "Okay." So I made it all fancy, and then it's the hardest thing to play on the album. No regret making it so stupid. But I was like, he said make it weirder, so I'll make it weird.
He did say himself in one of the interviews that I watched with some American guy, and it was like he joined the band because he just wanted to slap the bass and have a right good night out. And the next thing he knew, he was in a mathcore band that he was going to have to stay sober every night and make sure he could get every note. So it seems like it's his own fault.
Yeah, that first EP, like me and the original vocalist, and the original vocalist and me wrote those first EPs, and he was like quite like he liked mathy stuff, but he wanted to more just sound like Carcass. And then I was just chucking in Converge and Dillinger riffs wherever I could. And then he quit, and me and Josh were left with this, and we were getting gigs. So I was like, well, what do we like? We like Dillinger and Converge and Ride Tomasi and like Death Heaven and Wolves in the Throne Room and all these other things. Let's just do all of them at once. And then I put them in a blender, and out came on the album.
You guys are doing it, and you see you've been playing that material for a while, and you've been at those shows. That, I mean, I know we're joking and laughing about the Red Lion and Stevenage, but I mean, that's the bread and butter for most bands. You go and you play them, everyone has a great time. That's why you get into music. It's not to be Metallica. So what's the reaction been? Is everything getting fed to you that's going through the agent, or is he trying to protect you for some? Listen, guys, you don't even want to know about this. Converge are touring next year, and you've been invited, but you can't do it. I mean, what's the action been when you guys sitting there going, "Fuck this"? Firstly, this album's dropped, and this crazy snowball effect has happened, and then secondly, between the pandemic and your personal reasons, we can't get moving with it. So what's the reaction been between the threes?
Yeah, it's been. I mean, we've had, I think Svalbard had a tour later in the year, and we were like offered that, but we couldn't do it. And then like we had the offer from, we had an offer from Bloodstock before Vicky asked us.
Is that right?
Yeah. The guy, I can't remember his name.
Is it the guy Simon Hall that does that second stage?
I'm not sure. Was it Mitt? I feel like it was something. No, it might have been Simon. I don't know. Anyway, someone from Bloodstock just messaged our Facebook page and he was like the founder of Bloodstock or something, and he was like, "Do you want to come and play?" And we were like, "Yeah, we can't do it this year, but next year would be cool." But it was funny because we were like, "Yeah, we played Metal to the Masses. They're like Battle of the Bands competition, and got like knocked out first round, then second round." When we did it for like, because it's always the like just sort of soft rock or symphonic bands that are the ones that get through that. So we got knocked out there, and then the guy was just like, "Oh yeah, those are shit anyway." Like,
sorry.
Yeah, it was quite funny. Like, but that offer was good. We were going to be like second from the top on like the new Blood stage or something, so that would have been a really good slot. Your slot on Damnation that we were offered was like, it would have been so good if we could play, because we're like, it would have been us first when there are no clashes, so everyone would have to see us.
Well, it's because that's what was offered at the time, but then again, you probably would have started moving up the stage or onto the stage where you saw Agoraphobic Nosebleed, probably. I mean, it's at the time when offered, it was like, "Oh, this album's great." That opening slot in the fourth stage, I mean, it's a winning slot because you're going to have 650 people there if you're good. know what I mean? So like everybody,
Yeah.
Infernal Sea played it last year. It was absolutely packed. Ren played the year before. It was absolutely packed. It's like, it's weird because I offered that slot to a band and they knocked it back and asked for a different slot in the bill, which I felt was a bad move in their part, because ultimately you're going to clash with one of the bands on the main stage if you do anything but that opening slot. So you're taking a chance that fans are going to choose you over that band on the main stage, and that band on the main stage could be fucking Pallbearer or Cancer, or I mean, some pretty decent bands. So, you're right. That opening slot. If I was an agent and I had a new band who's coming, I'd be trying to get that slot, because it's not the same as an opening slot on other bills. So is I mean, and that's, I suppose that's the big draw. You know, as you say, you've been to Damnation as a fan, but it would have been great to come share a Triple A pass with Pig Destroyer.
Yeah, that would have been pretty insane. Wolves in the Throne Room. I mean, they're not there now, but now we've got Godflesh, so like, it's not like we're missing out really. But yeah, I mean, the main thing Damnation. It was like, oh, sick! I don't have to buy a ticket this year. if we get
still that mentality.
That's the mentality. I want to go to Damnation. Thanks for the free ticket.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Luke and Josh, you guys are invited too. At that point, if you've got a lighting guy and a sound guy, it's almost a party.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, party. It'd be an easier way for me to get some merch, because I tell you, it's not easy to get Pupil Slicer anything. I mean, I could get the last or the second last copy of that album. And the one time I went on to try and get some merch, it was either, I can't remember, it was sold out of fucking £15 postage and packaging or something ridiculous. like calm down, guys.
Yeah, we've been trying to fix that. We've got some up at the moment that's like, we've got pre-orders for UK stuff, and I'm going to be doing that. So that's like £2 postage. So that's actually reasonable. But yeah, it's been like the first set of stuff we put up sold up, and then I think on Bandcamp we keep having issues with like the UK stock of vinyl running out, and then it just defaults to the US one, and then the packaging goes up. Yeah. But Big Cartel has I mean, we've got no idea what we're doing, so
I'll get to the
we
point.
didn't expect to sell anything.
Somebody take that over anyway. It'll be okay. You'll probably end up with a merch deal with a company that takes 10% or 20% or something.
Yeah.
And just
that's what the US. We've got a US store now, and that's just like they'll do it all. So we just send them the designs, and they'll just perpetually make merch for the US customers. So
have you had interest yet from America?
Yeah, I think like from looking at our like metrics and stuff, it seems like 2/3. Like the US fan base is like twice as big as the UK one.
Right.
We've been talking with some US agents, which just seems crazy. And I think on the cards, like penciled in, we're thinking of touring the US in like 2023. And I'm like, we've only played a weekender. We still haven't even done the like first tour. And then the first tour we have got is like these ridiculous venues and like over the EU, and then in London with like 1,000 capacity as main support for a band. So I'm like, okay, it's gone a bit too fast. But I mean, hopefully we're good enough. I mean, we've been playing for years, and everyone's always like, "Oh, we can't believe you're not like bigger." And it's like, well, the thing is, like, we've been playing for years, but at those shows, it was like, "Oh, cool, that was amazing. Where can I listen to these songs?" You can't. Have you got anything for us to buy? You can have a T-shirt. Yeah. Like that's what that was it. It was just like, you come and see us live, and people were like, "Oh, that was fantastic," but we didn't have anything.
Well, two questions then. I mean, firstly, the assumption with everyone is people just want to be big, that Damnation wants to be Download, that Pupil Slicer want to be Dillinger Escape Plan. I mean, some people just don't. Some people just enjoy doing it for the love, and where it goes, it goes. Yeah. So, I mean, what's your view on it? I mean, is there a desperation with the three used to be career musicians, or is it just a case of, look, these opportunities are here and we're going to grab them?
Yeah, I've got no intention of, like, I don't think it would be possible in any sense to do music full time. I mean, if that was ever a possibility, it would be amazing. But like, I also worry that like if I did that, it wouldn't be fun anymore. Because, you know, when you make something a job, it does sort of lose a bit of the fun. And I'm really bad at writing when I have to write. I just sort of like don't write for like 4 months and then write like 4 songs in a week. but yeah, we've just been doing gigs for years, and it's been like slowly building up. We've been getting like cooler stuff, and we were happy to like. My dream festival, like the first festival I went to was ArcTanGent, and that was the year that the headliners were Cult of Luna, Dillinger Escape Plan, Death Heaven, Rolo Tomasi were there, and I was in heaven that whole time. Like that was so good. So my dream festival is like ArcTanGent, and that seems like not to be rude, but it seems like a given at this point. And I'm like, well, what now? Do we retire? Like, Josh's dream band to play with is the band we're main support for in February. It's like we've hit what are like, hopefully in 10 years we can do this. We've hit those, and now it's like, well, we don't. My pipe dream now is like, I want to play with Nine Inch Nails. That's what I'm like. Oh, I'm gonna just set it ridiculously high. That will never happen.
I'll happen far too quickly. So you might as well go with 9 Inch Nails. Let's say like my pipe dream is to book 9 Inch Nails. So we'll both aim for the stars. So I fucking lost track of what I was thinking there. Aye, so it's not about like it's just let's get bigger, even if that was ever a name, but these opportunities they're falling your way. Now, what have you done in terms of, have you getting, seems like a daft question, you still feel that you're a small band yourself, but you've got bands that will be looking at Pupil Slicer and saying, fuck, how do we get an offer for ArcTanGent and Bloodstock and Damnation and these big bands to tour?
That seems crazy to me.
Do you feel there's anything that you guys have done other than record the great album? Do you feel like the move to prosthetic or the agency you picked, or there was something you've done that helped that along?
I think it always just like luck almost. I mean, we did the album with we did it with Ped from Frontier and Sections. He mixed and like produced it all. So I didn't do any of the guitars live. They were recorded at home DI, and then he just reamped them on his end. We just did the drums and the vocals in the studio, and we just put loads of our own money into it. We just wanted to make a cool album. So the album was done when we went to prosthetic. The album was done in like early 2020. We finished writing it in 2018. I took it to prosthetic. We had it done, and we were like, haha, who are like, for fun, we'll spend a week just emailing it to like ridiculous labels like Relapse and Metal Blade and Prosthetic, and none of them will reply. And then we were going to say, well, now we'll do like, I think we also went to Holy Raw first as well, which is glad that Holy Raw said, not sure about this direction, but keep in touch. And I'm like, that's a relief that one.
Dodge.
Yeah, that one was dodged. But yeah, we were going to do, those are the big labels that we'd really like to be on, just because it would be crazy, but that's not going to happen. And then we'll go to like tiny DIY ones and stuff, and like find someone who'll actually put it out and try and find a nice, like, our dream was like someone who would make some vinyl for it maybe. I sent it to Prosthetic, and they replied in like an hour, and Steve was like, and it was because of what I'd written in the first line, which is, we just recorded our album with Ped from Frontier and Sectioned and the drums with Mike from Monuments, and Steve at Prosthetic said like, oh, I know anything with those guys' names on is going to be great. So I had to listen, and this is great. I'll show it to the others. And I don't think if we'd have happened to like record it with them, I don't know if it would have been listened to. And he listened to it and liked it. And then they signed us like a week later. We still had no idea what we were doing. And then we worked with Becky, our publicist. I think she used to work at Damnation as well. And she's just been like killing it on everything. I think that's what did it. Like we've been working really closely with her, and her just like sending it out to people with the right like blurbs and stuff. And it's just like, it's that we were thinking when we did it, we were like, oh, it'd be cool if we got like a Heavy Blog is Heavy review, and like, I don't know, it's that we had no expectations. We were just like, maybe like 3 or 4 reviews would be cool. And then it's like, it's in Metal Hammer, it's in Kerrang, it's being played on Radio 1. It's like,
The guy from Pig Destroyer's reviewing it.
The guy from Pig Destroyer's reviewing it for Decibel.
It shows you and how connected this scene is as well, because
Yeah.
you sent that email in May 2019, I think, to Damnation to try and get a slot that year. Now, Becky was still with Damnation. It would have been at that same point. And Becky, when she was with Damnation, had quite a lot of influence. Me, Paul, and Becky were a bit of a team, and we would get bands, and Becky got bands on Damnation. So, in the space of whatever that would have been, 8 months before you.
Yeah.
If Becky had been with Damnation and she's also working with Pupil Slicer, you probably would have ended up in that bill, because it would just get. It's weird, and exactly like the point you're making with the Ped and the guy who was doing the drums. It's no gatekeeping as such, because that sounds a bit wanky, but it's when folk know, it's like it helps. Like you get 1,000 band submissions, there's just no way in the world, even the best bands, you're going to miss out on some of them. Whereas you're just never going to get through them all. But if you had someone in place like a Becky, who was, if she'd been working with you guys at the time, that just went straight to the top of the pile. I'd have heard that you'd get booked, and that'd have been 2019. So it's a small world.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's a really surprisingly small world, but it's like it's weird. Like, it's not like we picked names because we wanted to work with them. It was like Mike from Monuments. It was like our bassist's old band had like recorded an EP with him, and he was really easy to work with, and had like, it was quite well priced for recording drums, but only recorded drums. And we were like, well, we only need to record drums and vocals, so we'll record drums with him. We did vocals with the same studio that we've done even our first EP on. So like that, the people there have been helping since, and that's like still pretty cheap, and because it's just like it's basically a tiny local rehearsal studio.
Yeah.
And then we worked with Ped just because I really like Frontiera, and I've wanted to work with him for ages. I think his mixing on that's great. And a couple of years ago, we'd said when we've got an album ready, it'd be cool to do it together and like put the effort in properly. And he was all on board for that. And yeah, it's been weird. Like I don't know if you know him, Renfrey Deadman.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did meet him I drunkenly met him at one ArcTanGent, but I know of him obviously through Riot, and the reviews he writes. He's a good guy. Yeah,
like I met him in New York for the final Dillinger Escape Plan shows. I met him in the airport in Heathrow on the way, and I think his partner at the time had like a Jane Doe top on, and I was like, "Oh, you're going to the Dillinger shows?" And they were like, "Yeah, cool." And then I just bumped into them again on the other side of the plane. And then after like the final gig, we went to like this bar until like 4 a.m. and we were just chatting. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got this band, and hopefully one day we'll have like this album done and whatever." And it was like whatever. We didn't really talk. We'd occasionally bump into each other at shows and be like whatever. And now he's like reviewing us and Riot Acting. He's like, "Oh, this is one of my favorite releases," and like it's all the connections. Then he shows it to his friends, and then they do a review for whatever. And it's so weird how connected the world is, but like it makes sense. But then it's like, I think it seems more out of reach for like new bands than it is. Like once you realize, like once you get a foot in the door, and like someone, like you just need one person to start liking you and being happy to work with you, and then like if your music's good, that will take you the rest of the way. It's just
I mean, first and foremost, the music is because you can have the best agent, the best fucking publicist, the best. But if you're shite, you're still not getting on Damnation. You know what I mean? Like we've had all sorts of nonsense we've had people try to buy on, like offer them, like there's £500, can we have that slot? We've had tours where the support's ropey, but it's really messing up the agent's plans, because then he's got support bands that we don't want on Damnation. But ultimately, once you go down that route of just accepting something that's not great, it's a domino effect. Then no one's coming in to see the start of your fourth stage or the start of your third stage, because people now, after a couple of years, they know it's just bands that don't deserve to be there. They haven't been hand-picked and, I mean, I hate the word curated, but programmed and put there for a reason. The reason why that was going to be Pupil Slicers, because I believed that folk would go in, 650 people would have a cracking show at the start of Damnation. Now, people had offered some money for Pupil Slicer, but it might well have been that on some tour support, a lot of the bands when they're on tour support will just say, well, we'll play for free because otherwise we're sitting in a van outside the venue. You know what I mean? So, but it's worth paying the extra couple £100 getting a band in and saying, right, okay, something I really believe in, as opposed to, as you say, like just getting, you know. So you need to be good. That's the first thing. After that, it's about just getting a door opened, and I've noticed that as well. I mean, I never knew that Bloodstock had offered before I'd mentioned to Vicky, but that's how quick that was. You've got one podcast and you chat to Vicky, and then Vicky comes off the podcast. She's a bit like, "Are you okay? Let's go book."
Yeah.
You know, and it's a wee bit sneaky in a lot of ways because you're a bit like, "Hey, that was the band I was trying to book," and then you've got James as well. But then James is not a guy you need to suggest bands to. I mean, he's even worse than me for sitting listening to music fucking 24/7.
Yeah, so I think our agent said James just like messages their label and it's like, what bands should we put on this year? And then they pick the good ones, and then he listens to them and he's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know. I don't have a lot of dealings with Etono. That agency, although I have booked Conjurer and I've got Rollo Tommaso in there, booked them, and there's a bunch of other bands that I think that will cross Tides and Nebula, Vola, but he is. I mean, how did you find yourselves on that? Because an agent's job for a band like Pupil Slicer is to terrorise Gavin McInally, Vicky Hungerford, James Scarlett, and constantly chase them up and say, "Did you listen to them? And can we get them on this? And can you get that slot?" And then when the lineup is full, they chase you again and say, "When any bands fall out, can we get it?" Now he's going into 2022 like
they're all coming to him. It's the other way around. Can we get Pupil Slicer?
He must be delighted. He must be delighted. So how did you come to work with Etono? And it's John Niblock, isn't it?
It's John. Yeah, John just messaged us. He just emailed and was like, "Oh, I really like your stuff." It was before the album came out. He was like, I think he went through Becky and was like, "I really like your stuff. Can we have a chat or something?" And we had a chat, and then he was like, "Great, cool." And then we like, so we were then on Etono and stuff, and we were like, "Oh, that's amazing." And then we were like looking at our third single or something. I was like, "Oh, what do you think for this?" And I think he was like, "Oh, I haven't heard the album yet." He like put us on Etono off the first single. And that was it. And he was like, "Oh," and then he listened to the album and was like, "Oh wow, that was amazing. That's great." But I think that's hilarious that we thought he'd heard the album, because like you wouldn't put a band on from one single. But he did.
It's their job. I mean, it's one thing for a promoter to pick up bands that they believe are going to sell tickets and fill rooms. Those guys need to be even sharper. They need to get in, because I mean, look, you were picked up before the album even dropped, so the guys really need to be on the ball to get, because it's easy from some. I've never been an agent, but it'd be an easy trap to fall into, to think that what you could do is just pick up 100 bands, and if 2 do well, then great. But the truth of the matter is, the 98 bands are still going to take all that time with the contracts, all those emails. It takes a lot of time to invest in a band to try and get them on, unless you're Pupil Slicer and the promoters are good at the agent. But good for him. He must be. I mean, I don't know how many situations you get in a label like an agency like Etono, where you've got a band where the work's kind of done. Now he's got. I mean, if you stick with him for the next 10 years, he's got the rest of the work to do the rest of Europe and get his onto the rest of stuff.
Yeah, he's got to get us bigger. Like I was.
I mean, I think have Hellfest offered yet?
No, they haven't. So he can. So like, I don't know. I don't want to like. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I don't want to feel like entitled to these offers though, because I feel like we've got to show we're good live, which we're doing with these things. But I don't want to be expecting off these things. I feel like we should still be, because in my mind we're still the band that plays like 50 people in the basement and has a great time, and half that audience is our mates.
No, like, of course. Listen, but I'm quite flippant in my personality anyway, and there's no point coming on here and doing everything with couched and if, buts and maybe. So no, I totally agree. Now you should have that. I mean, it's great that there's a real buzz about Pupil Slicer, but listen, there's been a real buzz about a lot of bands that no one knows about now, and are not getting on any shows at all, and maybe because they went down that rock and roll route a wee bit too quickly. And 1 year later, nobody gives a shit.
I'm hoping like we can carry some of the momentum through. Like we're gonna get, we're doing another music video from the album, and then some photos and stuff. We're gonna try and like second wind revival it, so that like people are still interested to hear it next year.
I mean, that's tough for you guys, because like Mirrors is already old to you. It's sorry, like myself saying, oh well, 3 months ago I stumbled upon it and it's like everything's brand new. But as you're saying, you were already recorded. You played that live even pre-pandemic. So I mean, is that difficult for the threes to try and keep that same enthusiasm for the album that already feels old?
Yes. The others probably less, so they're still into it. But like when I finished writing the songs, like I listen to them all the time, and I've listened to everything like a billion times. And I've listened to the album like twice since it came out.
Right.
Because I've already like I've enjoyed the album. Now I'm like listening to new songs all the time because they're like much more interesting to me that I'm writing. And yeah, it's funny, like Wounds Upon My Skin is our most that's like 40,000 views on YouTube now, and like seems to be people's like
that's the banger.
Yeah, I hate playing that song live. We've played it. That's the one we've played longest. We've been playing that for like about 3 years probably.
Really?
So it's we played that in Cardiff when we played Cardiff in 20.
When you went overseas.
18. When we went international, yeah. But yeah, I think. But it's hard to tell because, like, when we do start playing live, people know the songs this time. I think that's going to be a completely different dynamic to playing a set list full of things that no one's ever heard that people are enjoying.
And you'll be on a stage that's off the floor, which you'll be on.
That's going to be amazing. Yeah, like not a corner of a room. I mean, it's fun doing those gigs. I mean, it's fun doing tiny gigs, but there's like a certain level of like where it's too tiny, which is like 3 people in the audience in the corner of a thing at 2 p.m. on like a Tuesday. Yeah. That's the gig that isn't that's a bit too small. But like a load of people in like a DIY practice space at like 7 with like 50 punks there. That's great. That's like that's the reason we do it. It's just the energy of the room and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting playing once people know the songs. I think that will give it a lot more energy as well, because you always feed back and forth and stuff. We play quite energetically. I think that's what people seem to say. Most of the reviews of our live shows from ages ago, everyone's like, we play really violently. But that's why my guitar strap broke like 2 minutes into that one video of a gig we've got up.
When I listen to some of your previous interviews, it's all like, oh, we used cheap strings and we had to do it in one take, and we used, if there's a picture of a guitar, the top of a guitar, know nothing about instruments, but you had a hairband or something that was around the top of it, and it fixed. And you're a bit like, okay, no, that's getting polished, but no one in the world is saying what I want is a second polished Pupil Slicer album. You know what I mean? People like, why we love Mirrors so much is because it's so fucking raw and probably done in a couple of takes, and the equipment you used was exactly what it was. It made that sound. So, I mean, how do you go into the second record making sure you don't fall into that trap? I mean, Raging Speedhorn's best album was the first one. Corn's best tune is Blind. It's like, how do you make sure that it doesn't become too polished?
I just don't think it will. I don't know. I think I'm going to keep writing whatever music I want to write. And, like, what I want to do is turn everything up in intensity so, like, the catchy bits, more catchy, more hooks. But then the weird bits go weirder. The mathy bits go more mathy. And, I mean, you say it comes across really raw and stuff. That it wasn't. It's the complete opposite of that with, like, how Mirrors was recorded, like...
Right.
Josh and Luke hate me for, like, I was there for all of the things they were doing, and, like, they'd get the take perfectly, and I'd be like, can you swap the snare and the tom on that fill there and redo it? It just doesn't sound right to me. I was, like, so perfectionist with every little detail. Like, Luke, there's one bass note on the album that is auto-tuned a semitone up.
Right.
And you're not going to spot that. But to me, if that was off, that ruined the whole song to me. Like, I was so precise with how yeah, it was a very controlled making that chaos and that noise. Like,
right, okay. So I mean, I
it
picked
took
up the
me
wrong,
a
I
long
picked up the wrong
time
end of the stick, and it'll be nicer equipment or equipment that'll work through a full session, but there'll be none of the intensity or any of that rawness lost.
Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere, because like that's intentional. Like, it's not. I think the energy comes in writing it and creating the energy of the song, the flow of the song, and I think that's something to work on from Mirrors. Is some of the songs are a little bit too janky and all over the place, and that's good, but like they can be made more memorable and more catchy. Like there are like occasionally like 2 bars in a song where I'll be like, I could have done something better there, like,
Right.
and so yeah, I'm very particular with how stuff's getting written. So I think it will still. I mean, I sent a demo of a new track to Ped, because we're like, as the demos are getting finished, I'm sending them over, and I was worried. I was like, oh, have we gone a bit soft? Like, this one's got a bit more 4/4 in it, and it's a bit more. It's got like a chorus that comes back more than once, and I was like, oh, have we gone soft? And he was like, no, that's like the hardest song yet, and it's like the best song you've written. And I sent it to a couple of friends, and they were like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I was like, but to me, it sounds it. You know, I think because once you're listening to this sort of music from the perspective of writing it, it loses the spontaneity and like. So I listen to like Stabbing Spiders, which is just like discords in weird time signatures, pelting at you. To me, that song doesn't sound complex. It sounds kind of like straightforward because I know the pattern. I've memorized it. I wrote it.
Yeah.
So it just sounds the way it goes to me.
Yeah.
So I think overcompensated by like making the structures have no repeating. So I was like, if a riff comes back more than once, the song's boring, and I think that was going a bit too far. Like Dillinger are always bringing back riffs and doing stuff. So I think I need to take more of a songwriting thing of. I don't need to confuse me with the song. I need to confuse the listener. And then on 2 listens, they're still not going to understand this riff. So,
is there a prospect that before we see Pupil Slicer on stage, there'll be another record? Or are you holding that back until you're out there?
No, it's not. It's taking a while. Like, it's still going to take us ages. So my aim is to finish demoing the album by the end of the year, and then we'll record it like late next year, and so it'll probably be out early 2023. It's actually out. We might play a couple new songs when we're playing next year.
Freshen up for yourself. Everyone else will be hearing the middle stuff for the first time, and you're like,
that's the thing. It's like, do we play new songs? Because like people are going to want to hear Mirrors. Like, now that's out, people will be like, oh, I want to hear these songs. So, but then there are a couple tracks that we've never played live before, so those will be really fun to get out there, like Martyrs and Collective Unconscious. We've not played live. Panic Defense, Vilified, and Interlocutor. Those haven't been played at live gigs, but we did play them on the live sets we just recorded.
Yeah, because Martyrs is your top tune on Spotify, if I'm right.
I assume that's just because it's the first one on the album, though.
Right.
That's just people.
But you know the way just the way you listen in Spotify. So if you're just quickly, so then all of a sudden that tune becomes the one that everyone's most familiar with, because that's the one everyone's hitting on. So when I quickly stuck Pupil Slicer on today, Martyrs was the first thing that came on because it was the top tune in Spotify. So I would I'd suggest getting that in the set list then.
Yeah, it will be in the live ones, I think. I think that one was written specifically because Josh was like, oh, it'd be funny if we had like an opener that was just like blast beats to start a set with, and then he just started doing that blast like 230 BPM, and then and now he complains that that's the hardest one to play on drums, but it's fine because it's the hardest one to play on guitars as well. So and it's his own fault. He made it 235 BPM. So
so what's your dream scenario for your 2022 then? How does that look for you guys, or is it kind of falling into place?
It's already fallen into place. Like, we've got this tour which is like more than we could ever ask for. It's like main support at 1,000 capacity venue in London that will probably be sold out, and so probably all the others is like we couldn't ask for better than that. That is like insane. I'm getting ahead of myself because that might. Who knows if that will even happen? It's not announced yet, so it's not certain. But and then I'm hoping you'll still want us to play next year, and Vicky will, and James will, and hopefully all those festival gigs will happen. I think James was saying that maybe he'd want us for the year after when we're on cycle, and then skip next year. But then we were like, telling John, like, John, can you can we go on both years, please, or something? Just we want to play ArcTanGent as soon as possible. So.
Some promoters get themselves worked up with on cycle. I mean, I've been doing this now for about 15, 16 years. It's never made a single difference to ticket sale to me, this idea of band. But that's something for the fucking 80s and 90s when the only time people could get any press is when it was through a magazine.
And I'm like, we are on cycle. Everyone's on cycle after the pandemic because it's the first gigs we've played. As our albums come out, people are going to want to see us play this album stuff. I hope, and it's just I don't know how we're going to split up songs into like half-hour sets. We made our album longer than that, and I don't know if we can play for more than half hour because I get really tired.
Right. Okay. Well, listen. What I'd say to John is the advice to him is don't let him tie you down an exclusive, basically, because you'll get promoters that want to do that, and it'll just no benefit the band. And any promoter that's trying to look to tie down Pupil Slicer in an exclusive deal for festivals, they don't have the best interests of the band. You know what I mean? Because it's one of these ones where 2022 just could be an odd year for everybody. I mean, all the bands are available, as you say. Everybody's in cycle because they've had a backlog of 18 months of not doing anything. So, good. And I hope that, as I said, I'm trying not to even look at 2022 at the minute. I just desperately need 2021 to happen. But you'll be more than welcome at Damnation.
I was saying earlier, I was saying to Josh, I think I was like, I've got a ticket for Damnation this year, but I do secretly hope it gets cancelled because Pig Destroyer said they were free next year, and then we can be on a bill with Pig Destroyer. So sorry, Gav. For my sake, I hope it gets cancelled.
Gav, thanks for inviting me on the podcast. I hope your festival gets cancelled. Fucking dreadful, man. But you might get lucky. That Pig Destroyer get cancelled, but Damnation doesn't. And then because I'm not letting Pig Destroyer go until they play the goddamn festival again. So if for whatever reason American bands can't get over and Pig Destroyer become Carcass or Electric Wizard or whatever, then they'll be invited back for 2022, and I'm sure that's their plan would be to come back for 2022. But I'm still, as much as I'd love to see you play with them, I'm quite happy.
I mean, I've got a ticket to see them come, so if it's this year, then I'm happy because I still get to see Pig Destroyer. So.
Aye. Well, next year when you end up in the bill, you can sell your ticket, right? Sell your ticket to somebody else. That'll be fine. You'll get your money back. So, great. Listen, Kate, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Let's wrap this up with. Let's shine the spotlight on some other bands who would like to be or have the exposure of Pupil Slicer. So, who else is for the UK? Let's stick with the UK. Have you been listening to and feel that listeners should check out?
I don't listen to much music anymore. Our mates in Death Goals, we did a split with them ages ago. They've got their first album coming out soon. I always feel bad with these things because I always forget someone, and then I'm like, I should have shouted.
Bugger. Sorry, guys.
But yeah, there's a lot of cool bands at the moment. I can't remember any. We're friends with Null Grind. Null, they're a grindcore band. They're American, and they're really cool. They're sort of like full of hell, sort of death, grindy noise stuff, but also like kind of melodic in the way Full of Hell can be melodic. Whereas like very death metal-y melodic, but got moved in with the grind, and then kind of techie as well. There's sort of a bit matty. They're really cool. I've been listening to Spirit Box, but I don't know if that'd be your thing. But they're massive. They're way bigger than us. I checked them out because I was seeing the name fucking everywhere. Spirit Box this, Spirit Box that, and I was a bit like, I wasn't sure. And I noticed when I was listening to the last podcast she's done
you got some questionable taste, you guys. I mean, was it Luke that likes Judas Priest? I mean, fuck's sake.
I like Judas Priest. I love Judas Priest.
I mean, I don't know why. I like really, I like Natalie Imbruglia. I mean, I don't have a. It's not like I've got some elitist I only listen to like Pink Destroyer and nothing else. But the big bands in metal and rock like Kiss and Iron Maiden and Metallica.
I love Kiss and Maiden. I don't like Metallica.
No, I mean, I don't dislike Metallica, but I'm not excited about them. I'm just like, for everything that this scene has got right through, like your Baronesses and Cult of Lunas and Electric Wizards, I'm just like, to spend any time listening to Iron Maiden just seems alien to me. And then also, I think there's because Iron Maiden and Metallica fans can sometimes be so elitist that everything else is like music for idiots. That kind of gets my back up as well, because the idea of an Iron Maiden fan being elitist is I struggle to get to grips with. But I don't know why I went off that tangent. Look, the Judas Priest aren't great, so.
No, I like them, but whatever.
I end up with Bloodstock this year, which if I ever get my co-host back, Vicky, for that other podcast, if she ever reappears, and I make it to Bloodstock this year, I definitely will check out Judas Priest, because I'll be so desperate for fucking live music. I'll even check out that band Glory Hammer. I'm sure I'll listen to anything.
Yeah, the sort of the bands with like hammer in the name, they're usually not. I mean, like, they're all right. I'd probably like see it live for a bit, but I don't know. It's like, it's weird because like Gojira are really massive, and for some reason they just don't do anything for me, even though everyone who likes everything I like likes Gojira. I'm that guy. I like Eller Gojira. I mean, Backbone Gojira. The new album seemed fine, but I think I was expecting something a bit more with the hype it was getting, and it was just like, oh. People are always like, oh, you should see them live though, and then I'm like, I went to download once, and they were playing, and I walked out to get food because I was bored. I don't want to diss Gojira though; they're just like not my thing. But Josh and Luke like them a lot. I don't know. I do like most things though. I just like, I get into whatever.
But
I remember seeing Electric Wizard at Damnation that first time I went, and I was just so tired after the whole day, because I think Employed to Serve played really early, and I was just like, I pitted so hard at that, and then by the time Electric Wizard were on, I was like, I want to just sort of have a nap.
It could be long days. That's the problem with putting on a bill that people want to check out the bands at the other stages as well.
Yeah.
I can be saying, I can be there for like 7 a.m. and that day, and then you're like, oh my god, the time of banks, and a Bath was playing in the middle between Mariner and Electric Wizard, and I don't care.
He was getting drunk.
I don't really care much for a Bath, so I'm like, right, okay, let's get to Wizard. I remember myself being quite tired of that one as well, like, fuck me, man, and then Electric Wizard.
Yeah, that's the problem. You book two good bands like right from the start, and then you want to have to see it.
I know. Well, see if people in the UK would make it easier to sell tickets, I wouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean? Wouldn't have to have these fucking bills, 4 stages, all absolutely jammed with talent, so people buy tickets. We could put some, well, whatever on the 4th stage. You know what I mean? I'll just fucking cancel the 4th stage and just have a party at the main stage. But people need the entire bill to be absolutely rammed before they'll get tickets. So
anyway, 2022. Seeing as we're your favourite band, we'll be headlining the main stage, I assume.
The band that only want to play for half an hour will be headlining.
Yeah. We'll cut it down to 20 minutes for the headline.
That Pink Destroyer, I'm like, these guys, I can see them showing up, the headline this year, like, listen, Gav, we're going to do 40 minutes, right? Like, you can't do 40 minutes to headline the festival, guys. You need to stretch it to an hour. So we'll see.
No, we haven't got enough material to play more than like 40 minutes. So
it's mental. Right, listen, Katie, absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming and coming to the podcast, and thanks for the music. Pass the thanks on to Josh and Luke too, and we'll see you guys in a field somewhere soon.
Hopefully, one day.
See you after.
Thanks.